Hi everyone, welcome back to KNS Exposed, episode 5. I'm Kay, Christy.
And I am S, Sean.
And this is Exposed. Hopefully there's several of you still hanging out with us into our 5th episode endeavor.
Yes. Continuing along the journey into the cinematic experiences.
Yes. And it's a long holiday weekend. We have been relaxing and enjoying our weekend. Our movie this week was An Officer and a Gentleman, which was my pick, with Richard Gere, who, I was going to say some other key players in this, but it's pretty much Richard Gere's movie. Louis Gossett Jr., I should say, as well, who won the Academy Award for this, which was beautiful. And we are just chilling this weekend, and I got to expose my husband to this movie, this is a 1982 movie.
Yes.
Sean has never seen.
I have never seen it.
Now, let me footnote something right here to those of our listeners. I am 10 years older than my husband, born in 71. My husband is born in 81, and this movie was 82. So that's where I was going with that. My husband was 1.
I was not invited to the premiere.
Yes, when this came out. He was not invited. I can't tell you the year that I saw this. It doesn't mean that I saw this when I was 10. I don't believe so. But I'm pretty sure Sean didn't see it at 1 year old. So,
what was your first experience with it, though? Did you see it on tape, or did you?
And I knew you were going to ask me that, because that's the premise of we always have to ask why we chose the movie. I chose the movie specifically because you had not seen it.
Well, of course.
But also, in having several conversations about it, I love this movie. And I have to say, I'm also getting a little... I think we just ended this, 15 minutes ago, and watching it. And I probably am getting over my emotional of it, because you saw me getting a little emotional at the ending.
There was many scenes in this movie that you
not
got
just the ending.
during.
Yes, good call. Not just the ending. Several scenes leading up to the ending, emotional for sure, and it gets me every time. And I can't. So I had to kind of regroup myself.
Yeah.
And you said, "Are you ready to start this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to start this." It's just, this movie gets me every goddamn time. It's 1982, it's Richard Gere, it's Deborah Winger. But I digress. You asked, I guess, why I picked this movie.
No,
besides, you haven't seen it.
I asked what your first experience with this movie was.
I'm trying to remember, honestly. I can't do so. I don't think I can do so. I think this came out in 1982.
But you were 11, so you didn't see this.
No,
in
but
theaters,
I'm literally trying to remember. I guess I was maybe trying to change the subject, because I wasn't, because I do that.
You don't remember.
No, because I know that, but I mean, literally, I was trying to remember why, but I didn't see it at 11. Come on, let's be fair. But I'm trying to remember why I wanted to see it. But it doesn't matter why I wanted to see it. I goddamn saw it when I saw it. And I can't tell you the year. And that's okay. I just know I love the movie.
Okay.
And it was... And I've seen it at least 20 times. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I'm proud or not proud. But I just love the movie. And then when you said you hadn't seen it, and being married to you, I have to say, you have to see this movie.
This, of course, is one of the fun things about Exposed, is since we keep choosing the movies alternating, who picks it each week, this kind of was an organic pick. We started talking about potentially doing this movie after Leviathan, because
which was episode 2,
which was our second episode, because Lisa Albecker, is that how you pronounce it?
I believe so. I saw
she
her.
was in that.
She was in Leviathan, and I literally had right away went, Jesus Christ. She's in Officer and a Gentleman, and that's when Sean said, okay, I have not seen that. Yeah. And then I think that's what got us going on this.
Her part in this movie is of much
more substance
than in Leviathan, for sure. And it was very good for me to be only really familiar with her in that film.
Yeah.
To see her in a different light, in a different role. And I really enjoyed, her character in this, which isn't the main character. She plays one of the female cadets in Richard Gere's class.
Yes.
And, which, was probably an interesting take for the time period. Women were only involved in the military in such limited capacities. And
she was the only one
and she was the only female in that class.
In the class, yeah. And even on their run, when they were doing their run, either Gere or Worley, the other one, his best friend Worley said, what are you doing here? Seagal. I love that Louis Gossett said her name like that. It was so good. And she's just like, I want to be like one of the women to get jets, basically. So that's what was cool with that. And then, during this time frame, we're all 80s babies to a point watching these movies. I can't go back to how significant that was but it was rare that ladies were, going to get jets back then. No. So it's like, can we watch Top Gun? Like Top Gun Maverick came out.
Right.
And Phoenix, I believe Phoenix is the only female in that. That's a big deal with that coming out, and Phoenix being the only female attempting to.
I think there was if I remember correctly, I think there was another girl in there, but Phoenix was the only one that made the cut.
Oh, made the cut. Yeah, sure.
Mission that they flew at the end, but she was definitely the female.
Yeah, because some got cut. Yeah,
in that movie, right?
Yeah.
But times have changed. Times have changed from 1982.
Also, let's go back to this because we talked about this earlier, and it's important that we mention it. Please, anybody that's listening, I hope you've seen this movie because I don't want to give any spoilers away, nor does Sean.
And we also kind of operate under the assumption that you have seen the film. We don't spend a lot of time covering the plot.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And we actually had a friend listen to an older podcast last night.
Yeah.
And I said a couple things in the podcast, and she said, I did not know that, and so I just looked at her and said, the more you know.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going with that. If you've seen it, great. If you haven't, there's going to be spoilers.
We strongly encourage you to watch the movie before you listen to this.
Exactly.
The episode of the podcast.
So in this movie, we discussed this earlier because we did pause on a couple parts, where he's cleaning the belt buckles, etc., the shoes. Richard Gere has this little thing on the side.
Side hustle,
as Richard Gere, does. We find out that he is paying said guy to do the cleaning of shoes, etc., and he goes to get the bag, and he gives him $20. And I was thinking, $20? So I said to you, $20 for him to do all that, that's a lot of work for $20. But then you said what? Back in 82?
Is worth that was probably 4 times more expensive today than it was in 1982.
Right. So then I looked it up.
We actually looked
up we actually looked it up, and sure enough, that amount of work would be
like $76
like 75 $76 to this day. So you are correct, it would be 4 times as much, because we forget that's a lot of money back in the day. So a lot of money back in the day.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it now, but it certainly was back 40 years ago.
We also talked about Deborah Winger. I have to bring this up, and as most of you listeners know, we segue a bit. Deborah Winger, John Travolta, Urban Cowboy. I love the movie. Sean's not a big fan.
I'm not a fan of the movie
And
at all, really.
That's a whole nother probably podcast, right? That you're not a fan, because I love that movie. She's kind of a doormat in that movie, I would say. So I think listeners, why I brought it up is because she's kind of a doormat in this a little bit as well. More of a doormat, I think, in Urban Cowboy,
I agree
right?
100% with that. She is
okay.
The whole statement I agree with. She's kind of a doormat in this movie too, but she is an active doormat in Urban Cowboy.
Yeah. So great movie, great acting. It is.
Urban Cowboy?
Yes.
I don't think it's either of those things.
Oh, okay. This is where we agree to disagree, honestly. And sometimes I wonder why we're married, because I have love of a certain film that you do
sure,
not.
And I don't treat you as terribly as John Travolta treats anyone in Urban Cowboy.
Yes, yeah, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. She was a doormat in that. I'm just saying, after watching this tonight again for this many times I've watched it, I guess I have to say, yeah, I look back at Urban Cowboy and I go, God damn it, girl. Like, why did you go back to John Travolta? I don't know.
Look, there's scenes, and we might as well talk about it. There's many scenes in 70s and 80s movies that are looked at through a questionable lens in the 2020s.
Yeah.
And I don't like getting political, and I don't certainly think about it in a political fashion, but I tend to watch movies with how I feel at any given time, as one should. Things that were more acceptable in the 70s and the 80s are less acceptable today.
Sure.
Some of our favorite movies. I think that Rocky Balboa, which I love Rocky, he's kind of an abusive asshole in that first movie. He's aggressive. He's rough. He has no need to be for somebody that he loves so much.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's one of my favorite movies too.
I'm a little confused with that right now.
Raging Bull is a movie about a piece of shit.
Yeah.
There's just some things.
Was that De Niro, obviously?
Yes.
Okay. I'm stuttering, folks.
Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah, I'm stuttering on
Not
this
a very
one
romantic movie.
Because Rocky, I don't agree with.
I still think Rocky's a great movie.
I don't agree with anything you just said about Rocky, though.
Okay, but I still think it's a great movie.
I'm glad you think it's a great movie, but I disagree with everything you just said.
I don't like the way he treats Adrian in that first film. Really don't.
It's how her brother treated her, not how Rocky treated her.
I don't like how Paulie treats her either.
Exactly.
Right.
Rocky actually accepted her for who she was, and then the love blossomed. I don't even know what you're talking about. Agree to disagree, and we're segueing.
We are.
Also, yeah, to the listeners, I'm getting a little angry. Anything you said about Rocky, I just totally disagree with that, and I'm surprised. But that's okay. Louis Gossett Jr. in this, who won the Oscar
for Best Supporting Actor.
For Best Supporting Actor, totally deserved. And I think we stopped at one point and to discuss a few things during the movie, and you would say you agree with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're doing, there's some great drill sergeants in film history.
Yeah, for sure.
But he brings a lot to it.
End scene where, forget, we just looked at each other with the nut scene where he kicked him in the nuts.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, the fight scene at the end where he's like, we're gonna do it! Like, and Gear. I'm trying to do Gear. That was a terrible Gear.
Yeah,
that was a terrible Gear.
I've heard better.
Yeah, but when he meets them there, and then he's like kicking his ass, but then the nut shot, it's like
I felt it.
Yeah.
I crossed my legs immediately while I was watching the movie.
But that was such a great scene because it was so good.
Really good scene.
Because it's like, and then he's like, "You're going to be done, or you're not going to be done. You can DOR if you want to," and it's God, there's so many good scenes in this. I wanna touch upon this because we're gonna fast forward a little bit. It's not a secret. I get emotional with this movie, and it ended, and I literally turned to you and I said, ironically, on Letterbox, I only gave this a 4.5, which surprises me. I didn't give it more, but meaning a 5.
I mean, yeah, that's all you.
But I looked at you and I said, so I gave this a 4.5, and I'm super emotional right now, as I always am when I see this. And you just went, yeah, like, I don't know if you gave me a rating per se, but you were just like, yeah, I'm not really emotional. Now, I don't know if this is more of a chick flick because of the ending or what. I don't know. You just had that look like you were like, I'm exposing you to this movie. I want you to love it. But you gave me a look like not loving it.
No, I do not love this movie.
Oh.
I'm flat out saying it. I do not have love for this movie at all. I enjoyed watching this movie. I had a good time watching this movie. I do not love it at all.
Why?
I have a hard time calling this a romantic movie to begin with.
I never said.
No, I'm saying this movie is billed as a romantic movie.
Okay.
It's a romance movie. You look it up. Look up the genres.
Fine.
Romance is gonna.
Are you gonna do your thing? What you do? That these are terrible people.
No,
because it's like there's terrible people in this. I get it.
They're first of all, for the most part, I don't like most of the people in this movie. Meaning the characters, not the actors. The actors do a fine job. All of them do a fine job. But I don't understand some of these characters or their motivations, and that might just be on me. Might be an upbringing thing. Might be an experience thing. The end of the movie, which is a very romantic gesture where Gear comes back and picks up Deborah Winger and carries her off, while her mom watches, and her, because she works in the same factory, is a scene that I think resonates really well with people. I mean, it's a happy moment and to cap off the film, but part of it is ruined for me by the dialogue from the other woman. Which, why can't I keep forgetting her character's name? I don't know, and this is going to be awkward discussion because I can't remember even the name of David Keith's character. But the basic premise of this movie has two women who are trying to lock down some aviator husbands, and obviously that's, you could look at that as marriage for the wrong reasons. I'm going to let that slide and just be like, okay, it's two women trying to find men, and they're going to aviator bars. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But I don't think that they paint this picture that one of the women is more irresponsible than Deborah Winger's character.
Yeah.
Which she is, and we discover that. And there's a point even in dialogue where they make sure you understand that Deborah Winger is not as terrible as the other woman.
Which you said you didn't see that.
I didn't see it when we first talked about it, but I saw that as we went along. The
Lynette is the blonde.
Lynette, that's it.
Yeah, who is and Sid, they call him Worley. Sid Worley is his best friend.
Right.
But yeah, Lynette. No, she's terrible. She's terrible.
She is terrible.
But Sean, I have to jump in here. This is kind of what bothers me. A lot of movies that we watch, you do say, look, if there's a terrible character like Lynette, as an example, then you sometimes say, oh my God, they're not going to be redeemable at the end. Remember, we watched As Good as It Gets, the other night, and we both did our Letterbox review.
It wasn't an episode.
No, it wasn't an episode.
We had both
of
seen
Exposed.
the movie previously.
We had both seen it. But I specifically said, no, he's not a great character. I even said in my Letterbox review, he's not redeemable. And you said, oh my God, absolutely he's not redeemable.
No, he's a racist piece of shit.
Exactly. But I mean, Lynette is terrible in this. Sid, his best friend, is a good person. His ending is not good because Lynette fucked him over, as we know. I'm actually just really surprised by this. A little bit.
I don't know what to tell you. I find Lynette so fucking irredeemable as a character.
Yeah, but it shouldn't ruin the movie.
It doesn't ruin the movie. It ruins the moment. Finally Richard Gere comes in, sweeps Deborah off her feet, and Lynette has to fucking, make a comment, congratulations,
I know.
You fucking did it. Deborah Winger didn't do shit. Deborah Winger was won by not being as terrible a fucking person as you were.
I get it. No, by the way, in rewatching this for the how many millionth time, but for the first time with you,
yeah.
I hated when he came in to sweep her off her feet, and yes, Lynette goes, "Oh, congratulations, happy for you, Paula."
Yeah.
It's okay, that part was stupid because it's you do know Sid's death is on your
is directly responsible for
yes,
you
exactly.
being
I get it,
garbage person. Yeah,
yeah, but let's also laugh a little bit because Up Where You Belong,
yes.
He carries her out,
right?
And we did joke when we were outside talking about this earlier. I said, love lifts you up where you belong.
Which is about 3.5 feet off the ground.
And I looked at you and I went, he did lift her up where she belongs, because he carried her out. And
right.
you said, yeah, up to about his chest or whatever. It's kind of funny.
I'm just
saying, listeners, sometimes we have funny moments. They're not great, but they're funny to us.
That's right.
But it just, those little things. Anyway, I was trying to get away from the Lynette thing because that was a shitty comment. Because, look, she must be thinking, dude, this guy died because of me. Because you're a piece of shit. She was a piece of shit the whole movie.
But you could make that whole scene better by literally just having her, have her sad reaction and, a self-reflection reaction.
Well, she was crying.
And just say nothing. The events of the last couple weeks are still weighing on her.
Okay.
And that wouldn't have taken away from the moment.
I agree. And honestly, I've seen this movie a lot of times. I keep saying it, but I want to say it because I love this movie. Every single time I've seen this movie, when she does that, when she's like, "Get at you, Paula," and she's clapping for her and she's crying, it's again, Sid died because of you. I'm kind of with you here. She should have just said, she should have just cried a little bit and clapped her hands and then shut your mouth because it is kind of weird. I'll give you that, but I still love the end scene. It's great. It's great.
It's an iconic moment. It's an iconic song.
It's an iconic movie. It's an iconic end.
Yeah.
It's an iconic song. And we talked about this earlier. What if you could name all endings, not all endings, but several endings of iconic movies with their endings? This is one of them. Every single person remembers him carrying her out of that fucking paper factory. And you even said...
I had never seen the film, and I knew that sequence. Exactly. So obviously it had been shown or examined time and time again in... I don't know, best moments of the 80s or most romantic moments of cinema.
It's pretty great.
Many lists that I have seen over the years.
And also...
it's been brought up.
Also, we had discussed...
I own the soundtrack to Officer and a Gentleman, and I had never seen the movie An Officer and a Gentleman.
Okay.
So, it definitely did its job.
Yes, it did. It's also, I'm a chick. I don't know. I don't really want to call this a chick flick, but if I could, I guess I should, because I don't know, for the listeners out there, I don't know how many are women, how many are men that are listening to this, that have seen this movie.
Or that will listen to this eventually.
Or that will.
Because it will live on. Christy's anger at me will live on in perpetuity.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, this is episode 5. This is the most angry I've gotten at my husband on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a little wow with this. So hopefully this isn't your first listen to our podcast, because then you'll be confused wow, they're not getting along. And by the way, we can play well together very much. But I'm a little confused by this one. I thought you would. I'm not a hater that you didn't like it as much as I liked it, because that doesn't have to be the case. I feel like you're just like a hater on a couple characters, and so like you weren't fully there.
I don't look. I like to bring up The Notebook. The Notebook is a cheesy movie, very cheesy movie.
I've seen it once,
and it's a movie designed to play upon your emotion.
Right.
It hits all the notes that it's supposed to hit, and despite how laughable it is on paper, how emotionally manipulative that movie is,
right,
it succeeds.
Sure.
In doing what it's supposed to do. We talked about Love Story outside. I am unabashedly a fan of Love Story, and Love Story is melodrama 101.
Yeah. I'm a fan as well. I'm the one
can't-
that brought it up.
I can't watch that movie without crying.
I know.
And
I'm the one that brought it up.
It's just as ridiculous as The Notebook was 30 years later, or however many years later that movie was to that. This movie, I think, is a well-acted movie, but I am not totally along for the ride. I just don't understand what the central message of this movie is trying to convey, or what the point of this story is.
Can we talk about the sex scene?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because I'm sorry, we're going to go. That sex scene, I mean, I believe I turned to you and said, can we pause and go have a cigarette?
Yeah.
Just because that was, you asked at the last podcast we did, when we ended it, and I said, the next movie that I'm choosing is Officer and a Gentleman. And you're like, are there boobies? And I'm like, oh, there's boobies. I mean, I don't think they're big boobies, because it's
it's not. It's this movie was very classy with its use.
Okay, but I
boobies.
said there is some. I don't want to say the F word in case my mom is listening, because she'll probably.
There was some sexy times.
Yeah, there were some sexy times in this. That one scene in the hotel room where she's, sitting on him. Mm-hmm. It was nice.
It was.
I mean, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. It was hot, listeners. It was hot.
Here's where I go with it.
That's why I wanted a cigarette.
I don't know if it's the hottest sex scene ever, but what I love about it, truly love about that scene, and I mean it, love it.
Okay.
Is that it might be the most realistic, or relatable, if anything, sex scene that I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
That's not an adult film.
No.
Like, this is literally two normal people having a sexual moment with each other. They deal with it when they're done, the way they converse about it. Because you never talk about the cleanup. You never talk about the cleanup.
Yes.
No movie ever deals with the cleanup.
It's always like, that's the beautiful. I love that you said the cleanup. And Mom, if you're listening, shut it off now. Because you don't need to hear this. But yes, it's exactly. It was like, do I need to get a towel?
Get a towel, yes.
And then also, okay, goodbye, Zachary. We know what happens there, because, and you and I looked at each other because we were laughing, because it's like, it was realistic. It was realistic. It was finally a realistic sex scene that it was beautiful up until that point. But, the whole sequence was beautiful.
Oh, they're two beautiful people engaging.
Exactly. But then
a moment.
But it was great that they even talked about it. It was so realistic. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I actually genuinely appreciate it. Like, that was the most naturalistic in an American-made movie.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
That just didn't
hot.
shy away from the cleanup aspects of it. I think it's impressive.
It was hot. It was hot. It was cool. It was like, did I just say hot and cool at the same time? Cool. How could it be hot and cool at the same time? But
I see hot.
Yeah, I see hot. No, that's not okay. But no, it was real. I loved it. And then when the scene before, when she's just like, you're nothing, and because he was basically being a dick to her
he was
before.
He
was being a total dick, and she was literally trying to leave. He grabbed her at the door, and I was like, God, when he grabbed her at the door, and I'm like, oh Jesus, that was great. He didn't let her leave, and then he started kissing her face all over, and it's like, that was There was a lot of hotness in this,
But
and I loved it.
back to your point, and I want to be a little bit softer on the actual romance between Richard Gere and Deborah Winger.
Deborah Winger.
I don't, we learn throughout the movie about the upbringing that Richard Gere's character had, and Deborah Winger's life gets, kind of revealed, as it goes on, and she is not as terrible a person as Lynette at all. But there are definite misunderstandings and things that happen in Richard Gere and her courtship that the consequences of it make sense. Which I also kind of appreciate it because it's real. It's naturalistic. Right. We had paused for a moment during the movie right after Richard Gere comes to dinner with Deborah Winger's family, who Grace Zabriskie has given him crazy eyes, and
you gotta bring her up because you love her.
Well, of course I love her because of Twin Peaks.
Well, no, you have to say to the viewers they don't know who she is.
Oh yeah, Grace Zabriskie played Sarah Palmer, Laura Palmer's mother, in the Twin Peaks television series, which I am a fan of. She's also been in multitude of other David Lynch projects, but she'll always be Sarah Palmer, to me. And she still, God bless her, she looked like she was smoking 6 packs a day in 1982. And time hasn't been any kinder. But
also, is she still alive?
She is still.
No, she's still
kicking.
Okay.
She is still kicking, and I love it. And I hope she lives to be 150 years old. She's just a treat. But obviously, much younger here, than even in Twin Peaks, because that was a decade later or close to it. But anyway, I digress. That scene where she's there with where he's eating dinner with her family, including her dad, who's apparently Saddam Hussein.
He's not, but he did look like him.
He looked like
Jesus Christ.
Also, 10 years before anybody knew who Saddam Hussein was. But you get a vibe of the family, you get a vibe of her upbringing, and suddenly her wanting to find any way out of this as possible without damaging other people along the way is kind of understood.
Well,
there's a conversation she has with Lynette on the boat where they're like, how far are you willing to go to get out of your current situation? And Deborah Winger basically says, I'm not willing to go as far as you are going. And God bless her for not doing that.
And she didn't, and that's what that was the difference between Lynette and Paula.
It's an important character moment.
It's super. You remember we paused at one point. I looked at you and I said, I don't want to ruin anything, but I made a comment about Paula and what's happening and Lynette, and you said I don't see that they're any different, meaning Lynette and Paula.
Right.
And I said, okay, granted, warranted, but we're not. You haven't seen the whole movie yet, so I said, just here we go. When we start off a pause again, you're going to see what's going on. She's a terrible fucking person. And again, I can't even imagine being her and living with that when Sid did the deed.
So, as somebody who's seen this movie 20 times, I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Was there a baby or was there not a baby?
Well, she faked the fuck out of that.
You think so?
Oh, fuck yeah. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening. I just said the F word like 3 times. Yes, she absolutely... It's the whole premise of the movie, which I hope you were paying attention.
No, I was.
No, hear me out. The beginning, when Louis Gossett pulled them aside in line and said, these women come across the state line and they will trap you in any way they can. I'm doing it's a terrible Louis Gossett right now, but
I'm convinced.
Are you? Okay, because
it's like I'm watching the movie again.
Okay, I'm like, this is terrible.
That's the
But anyway, he said, they will. I know. I could have won the Oscar as well. But no, they will trap you into anything. And she was absolutely lying. Also, hello, Sid proposed to her, okay, and she was all excited, right? And then when he said he DOR'd, and she said, "There's no baby, Sid."
Yeah, no, I got
Also
that.
great. Did you see where I
That was
went
pretty
with that?
good
Yeah, that was pretty
impression,
good too. Sorry, I'm trying to do all the characters right now, but no, she said, "There's no
I
baby,
don't
Sid."
want any Okie from Pinocchio.
I don't want any Okie from Skinoki.
Whatever.
I know. And then you're gonna go work at J.C. Penney and be floor manager again? Oh my God! Once he said that, did you see her face?
Oh yeah, deflated.
Oh my God! What? Nobody DORs after 11 weeks. She's not wrong. Look, I'm not saying I agree with her. I'm just saying, in answer to your question and to the listeners, she lied. She was not pregnant. And, I'm sorry, all of a sudden you got your period that morning? You're a liar. Also, when they came to the house, remember trying to find him,
Right.
and she said, "Paula, I would never lie about that." And Paula wouldn't even look at her. She knew she was lying. She lied to trap him.
Right. She said that she. Oh yeah, she said that there never was a baby.
There never was a baby. She lied to trap him because she wanted to go live the fucking overseas and be with a pilot.
I know what her
She's
end
a
motivation
terrible
was.
person.
I was just wondering if she might have found out that he DOR'd.
Oh, no.
Was pregnant.
No.
And she was like, "Oh, no, now I'm getting an abortion because you're not
God,
a fucking
no. She is a piece of shit."
man." Yeah.
Here's what I did think in watching this for the first time with you. In answer to your question, no, she's a lying piece of shit. But what's funny is if he had not DOR'd, okay? Everybody wants to know the answer to that. Let's say he hadn't DOR'd. What would she have said about the baby? I can tell you what she would have said. There was no baby.
Oh yeah, she would just say
she would have. Let's say he hadn't DOR'd, and then he said, "We're gonna go live in Hawaii because that's where I'm getting stationed." Because she said, "Where do you think we're gonna go? Hawaii or whatever?" She named all these.
The thing was, the reason I asked the question was two-pronged. One, she didn't tell him that she didn't have a baby, or that she didn't have the baby, or not have the baby. But you know what I mean? She wasn't pregnant.
No, she said her period was late originally.
Until he mentioned, "We can still get married, and you can come back to Oklahoma." We can raise the kids there, or your kid there, and start a family there. And she said there is no. That's when she said there is no baby.
Yeah.
And also when she talked with oh my God, I keep wanting to say Lori Singer, but Deborah Winger.
Yeah.
When Richard Gere comes in.
Yeah.
Appropriately calls her every word in the book.
Oh, he said
the C word.
No, he said the C word. C-U-N-T. Sean's
here to back it up.
Say it.
C-U-N-T?
Just say it.
Oh, no. It's just...
To those of us that can't...
I'm pretty sure our listeners can spell. She's berated by Gere justifiably. And that's when Lori Singer asks her if there ever was a baby.
It's not Lori Singer, babe.
Fuck!
It's Deborah Winger. Oh my God.
Says, "Was there ever a baby?"
Yeah.
And she says, "Not as of today." And I'm like, that's an interesting word to verbiage to use.
I know, but we also have to go back a little bit because you're actually wrong in what your words. He asked her to marry her.
Right.
Okay. And she said, "Oh my God. Oh,
yeah,
yes. Where are we going to be stationed?" She put it on her finger. She was so excited. And then when he said, "I DOR'd," she said, "There's no baby." That's when she said there's no baby.
No, she didn't.
Yeah. Sean?
No, because she waited until the family conversation came in.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
He said, "I DOR'd."
We're going to play this back after.
He said, "I DOR'd." She said, "I'm done. There's no baby." Then, remember, he turned to her and said, "I don't care if there's no baby. I still want to marry you. Let's go back to Oklahoma.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe I'm right.
Maybe you're right.
I know I'm right because I've seen this movie a goddamn million times before you.
I'm just saying, these bitches be lying.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, now they're bitches? Okay, now they're bitches.
They're bitches.
This is interesting. Okay, first of all, she is a terrible person.
Oh,
she's
100%.
A terrible person. The only thing I don't understand is, Jesus, I hope you watch it because we're going to spoil it. He swallowed the ring with some, the booze.
Keith, or David Keith,
Sid.
we're talking about.
Sid.
Yeah, Sid.
And then his demise.
Richard Gere finds him
hung
in the bathroom shower.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because I get what Sid was doing the whole movie. Richard Gere had dinner with his parents. Like, I get it. Like, these parents are like, wow. His baby brother who died.
Right.
In the war. And then he's just trying to do everything to please them. And even the wife he was going to marry...
Susan.
Yeah, Susan. The brother was going to leave behind. He's going to marry him. It's just like, you're just doing all this stuff. And that's why you're doing all this whole thing to please everybody. It's crazy. It's so crazy. But then when you did what you did and you didn't even... That's what's saddening to me. You didn't even talk to Richard Gere, before... Which is why Richard Gere holds him at the end and says...
Which is moving. Like,
moving.
It's
Tell me that's not a moving scene.
God,
Richard Gere, I was gutted.
I
was gutted.
A couple things I want to mention about that scene. First of all, I'm really impressed with Keith David acting dead. David Keith, not Keith David, very different actor. But I'm really impressed with him, his death. Because obviously they couldn't just use a dummy for the corpse. I mean, it's him just draped and trying so hard not to breathe.
Butt-ass naked. While Richard Gere is just cradling him, holding back his own tears, trying to be as manly as possible and failing. And it's incredible. It's
just
amazing.
Absolutely. It might be one, like, I'm not a Richard Gere, like, aficionado that I could say that I've seen his entire work and compare one scene. It's certainly the best piece of Richard Gere I've ever seen.
It's also better than, because we got to always throw her in, than Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts. If you're listening, we always drop in Julia Roberts. We have to. Come on. So I just dropped it, right? I just dropped it.
So much. So literally Pretty Woman's just a remake of this movie.
Yeah, no.
Because
It's really not.
That's about Richard Gere taking a woman who's downtrodden and lifting her up where she belongs.
Yeah. And there it is. Julia Roberts, if you're listening, there it is. Also, seriously, let's talk about Richard Gere's scenes in this. Jesus fucking Christ. Did we already talk about this? Where he's like, Louis Scott, and where he does that whole thing where Louis Gossett is like, I want your DOR. I want it. I got nowhere else to go. Is that amazing? Why are you laughing? Was that good?
I thought that was a bit much. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I
for him?
Yes. Like,
I thought you meant for me. I thought you meant like I was giving it to him.
When that scene happened...
Oh my God, really?
I honestly wasn't...
Who are you?
I'm sorry. Who
are you? I don't even know.
I kind of laughed at it a little bit because I didn't buy it. I did.
What?
I did buy him in the hotel bathroom. Hook, line, and sinker. I believed everything there.
That was a great scene too. We already just talked about it. Are you kidding me? When he said, "I got nowhere else to go."
Yeah.
I am judging.
See, here's the thing. I really like Richard Gere's character growth in this movie.
Okay.
But I didn't like him as a character for like the first half of the movie.
He wasn't a great person.
Right. No, he got better. But the movie's called An Officer and a Gentleman. At the beginning of the movie, he was neither an officer nor a gentleman. He had to grow into that. Actually, he's not even an officer until the end of the fucking movie.
Oh my god.
It's just an ensign.
Well, he became a gentleman. Look, remember when we watched As Good as It Gets?
I do.
Okay.
It was that long ago, like last week.
No, we watched it like last week. Okay. You and I went and we talked about it. The movie made me emotional. But, like I said in my Letterboxd review, Nicholson is not... there's a lot of characters that are redeemable. He's not really redeemable in this, and I believe you said that in your Letterboxd review as well. I still gave it a good review.
My problem with his characterization,
he's a terrible person,
is that he wasn't just a grumpy man that became less grumpy. He was a fucking racist. He was a fucking homophobe.
Yeah, no, exactly.
He was a piece of shit. I kind of got over the homophobe bit a little bit because of Aaron Eckhart's character towards the end of that movie. A little bit, but...
Greg Kinnear.
It's Greg Kinnear. Aaron Eckhart. I'm thinking of Aaron Brockovich.
Yeah, you're doing that.
Jesus
I get
Christ.
It. Yeah,
Julia Roberts, get out of my life.
I know. It's not... Yeah, I know where he was... I know where you're going with that. I get it.
Yes, Greg Kinnear, sorry.
It's Greg Kinnear.
It was...
I'm here to help you.
I appreciate it. I need it. I need the coaching.
I know.
No, but it doesn't make a difference that he's cracking racial slurs and, yelling at Jews for sitting at the table too long.
Yeah, no, I know.
And I'm like, okay, you might make Helen Hunt's day by giving her some money for, helping her kid. And I'm sure she appreciates it. I don't buy that you're going to get into a relationship with Helen Hunt.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we both felt... I know we both felt Jack Nicholson's character. I love As Good as It Gets, but I didn't buy it. I don't buy the kiss at the end with Helen Hunt. It's weird. Yeah. It's awkward. We both said it. I don't feel you're redeemable. Not at all. I feel Richard Gere in this is, he's not a great guy in the beginning of this. We get it. He's had a shitty childhood, whatever. Who hasn't?
Right.
But I mean, this is redeemable.
I agree.
100%. And also, Deborah Winger is not Lynette, that piece of shit. Oh, Jesus, live with that for the rest of your life, Lynette. And Sid dying because you're a piece of shit and lied about being pregnant because you weren't. I don't know.
I don't think. To be fair, I don't think Lynette's living with that for the rest of her life. I think that everything that Richard Gere's character said to Lynette in her house is accurate. In another few weeks, another class was going to be in session, and she's not cruising with Paula anymore because Paula's with her.
Paula said, live with yourself.
Right.
And also, and I'm going to say it, listeners, I didn't want to say it because we don't like to say the C word, but when he left, he said, cunt.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Well, you're a is what he said.
Uh-huh.
He said you're a.
Oh, well,
cunt.
I know. But I just said it. Okay.
Yeah.
But he said it. We don't like to say that word on our podcast because I don't know if this is family friendly or not, but I mean, we don't like to say
not with all the fucking we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Exactly. So, yeah. Yeah.
Wild Things is not a family friendly movie.
That's true.
Okay.
We're trying to keep it sort of classy, but sometimes it can't, people. But I want to say a couple things. His turned 40. July 28th, 82. If my notes are correct. Officer and a Gentleman. So it's beautiful in that way. Mayonnaise. Oh my God. Who looks at mayonnaise and just can't say, first of all, you don't like mayonnaise.
I don't like mayonnaise. But I don't know that I'll ever be able to think about mayonnaise without thinking about Louis Gossett Jr. saying it.
Also, David Caruso. I don't know if he's been said in our podcasts.
I don't think we've
I don't think so. But we are not a big fan of David Caruso.
Well, no. You are not a big fan of David Caruso.
I'm sorry. David, if you're listening, we are not. I'm sorry, I am not.
I have nothing against you, man.
I'm sorry, if you're listening, I have a problem. Because David Caruso, NYPD Blue?
Yeah.
Sean's like, you didn't like him in that? No. I didn't like him in that. He was overacting, completely overacting. Also, I saw him in Kiss of Death. Was
Yeah.
with Nicolas Cage. Totally overacting. You left NYPD Blue to do movies. You're not good. Why I'm bringing you up? This is the only movie I liked you in, and I want to just make sure I say it because I did really like you in this. Your part was small, but you were actually the only movie that I really liked you
He was
in.
a likable enough character in this movie.
Yeah. Robert Loggia.
Mhm.
Am I saying it right?
Loggia?
Loggia.
Yeah.
He always reminds me of Gene Hackman sometimes.
Yeah, no, I can
But
see that.
yeah, okay, but Robert Loggia, he was the dad in this. Loved him. He's great in this. He's great in everything.
Also, not
but-
a good person.
No,
but,
not a
yeah.
good person in this. Not at all.
But very believable.
Yeah.
In the part.
Yeah.
For sure.
That was-
Let's talk about how Richard Gere was really too old to be playing this character.
So Sean called this. This is a great point. So we were sitting here tonight watching this,
Mhm.
and it was a little bit confusing because there's a lot of movies where the person who is playing a younger person, but they are older. It's a bit confusing.
As we call it, the Andrea Zuckerman.
The Andrea
scenario.
Zuckerman. We call it the Andrea Zuckerman.
Because when Andrea Zuckerman was on 90210,
Yes, she was actually
85 years old
No,
in
she-
real life.
Yes, she was actually 25 years old. She's also the president of SAG.
SAG, yeah.
Yeah, but she was actually 25 years old, but she was playing like a 17-year-old. So
And
that's
what-
why Sean and I always go back
What's
to
her
that.
name? Andrea Zuckerman's a character. What's her name? Why can't I think of it? I feel really bad about this.
It's Gabrielle Curtis.
Okay.
Curtis. It's really no different. So Sean said a beautiful thing tonight, and we actually asked Alexa. We had to know. Sean said, "So Richard Gere, because if you're actually doing this and you're trying to
become a pilot.
pilot, you have to
enlisting
be
in the
in your
Navy.
20s." And Sean had said to me, he said, "Wow, he looks like at least in his 30s here." And I'm like, well, he's clearly not, because you can't be trying to get
Yeah,
fly
I
jets.
was like, how old is he supposed to be in
Yeah,
this
because you
movie?
can't fly jets. You can't go to fly jets in your 30s, really. Because, by the way, 30s isn't old, but you can't go to do that. And so I said, no, Sean, I believe he was probably in his 30s, but it's 20s that he was trying to play the character. So I asked Alexa, what would,
She heard you.
what year? Okay, stop it, Alexa.
Alexa, stop.
I know. So I asked her, and she said he was 32 playing this movie
As a 22.
as playing a 20-year-old. And so Sean was correct in this. So that's
and
what's
the
beautiful
reason
about
that it bothered me is we didn't really talk about the beginning of the movie, which is all of Robert Loggia's scenes.
Which were brief.
But I mean, the movie starts out with Robert Loggia in bed with two prostitutes, and Richard Gere oddly being there and just tapping Robert Loggia on the shoulder to wake him up, and he's sitting there with his shirt off with a tattoo on his shoulder or his arm, and I'm like, none of this checks out. Robert Loggia plays his father. I'm like, you shouldn't be living with your father looking like you do now, age-wise. Something is off. You look like a 35-year-old. He was 32. Living with your dad, and he was playing
really
a
young.
22-year-old.
He looked really young, though.
I think he looked younger as the movie went on, ironically enough. When he cut his hair and joined the class, and then he looks good in the dress suits, for sure, the military suits. He looked younger there than he did at the beginning. But yeah.
Now, we're also going to talk about, because we can't leave him out, Taylor Hackford. We can't, the director.
The director of...
Yeah, we can't leave him out. And I just want to pinpoint some stuff that he did. Against All Odds, White Nights, Dolores Claiborne.
Is White
Which,
Nights the Russian
Yeah,
movie
you
with
know what it
the
is.
what's his name, the skater, the Olympic skater? Am I right, or am I wrong?
No, can I finish really quick?
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
go on.
because I'm on a Proof of Life. Didn't we just
Baryshnikov.
Thank you. Proof of Life. Didn't we just talk about this with Meg Ryan? And,
Yeah, but I've never seen Proof of Life. At least I don't
Okay.
recall if I've seen it.
Ray. He
Yep.
did Ray.
Yes, he did Ray,
He did Ray.
which got an Oscar
yeah
for
yes,
at least
yes,
a couple
it did.
Oscars.
Yes, it did. I believe he did the videos also for Phil Collins' Against All Odds.
Which makes sense
and
because he directed the movie.
He also did, I believe, Lionel Richie, Say You, Say Me. Don't get me started on that. Jesus Christ, because I can go on all night with that.
Did he direct the music video for Lifts Us Up Where You Belong?
No, I don't know, Sean, and you're putting me on the spot. But I don't think so. But what I wanted to say, what you just said, which is kind of interesting. Up Where You Belong.
Yeah.
It's funny because they played it throughout the movie.
Yeah, they used it as a motif.
And I'm sorry, I was stammering because I was trying to find the right words. It's fascinating. Okay, so when the movie starts with the, credits,
Mhm.
it's Up Where You Belong. It's the heavy guitar
Yeah.
of Up Where You Belong. And then, remember the sex scene that we talked about that was hot? It's the slow guitar of Up Where You Belong. And by the way, if somebody's watching this and they don't know where Up Where You Belong is, they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about with the scenes of the music. That's what's great about the music. And then at the end, of course, they do the actual song, and you know what I mean? But throughout the movie, there's a movie we watched a few weeks ago that, remember, they did the main song throughout the movie, but it was in different chords. We talked about
I'm trying
it.
to think. I mean,
You know what I mean?
I know that this was a somewhat common occurrence in like James Bond movies during the times where they would slow down or it would just be chords, and the lyric would only be during the the intro thing.
But we just literally watched a movie.
It wasn't anything.
Do you remember?
That.
I can't think of it right now, and I don't think you can too. The theme song was played throughout, but in different chords.
Yeah.
I know you know what I'm talking about. We just can't think of it.
Sure, yeah.
But anyway, this is what reminded me of that.
It's also very well done in that regard.
It's so well done. He's on the motorcycle in the beginning, hard guitar scene, and then I already said it, so I don't want to be redundant. But just like, I love that. I love that they take the theme song and do it like that. Do you know what I mean?
This might sound kind of like a backhanded compliment, but I don't really intend it to be a backhanded compliment. One of the things that I was noticing when I was watching this movie and about halfway through it was that I wasn't particularly impressed with the actual score to this movie, like the musical score.
Okay.
And I half wonder if it's one of these things where like the filmmakers themselves weren't all that into it. And so they leaned on the song because they knew they had a banger, and so they kind of rescored key scenes with it. It's not a bad approach. I actually think it works in this movie's favor to do it.
I get it.
Because you're not outside of soundtrack songs, like "Treat Me Right," blasting during when we meet the girls for the first time.
Yeah. Good point for remembering that.
But outside of named songs, singles that you would hear on the radio. The actual music in this film, you're not humming any part of it. You're walking out of the theater humming "Love Lifts Us Up Where You Belong," and that's all you're taking away musically from this movie. And in watching it in 2022, knowing full well the impact that song had, it's very obvious how they lean on it and rely on it in those scenes and change the tempo or change the. Bring out the guitars or bring out different chord structures to it. I really dig that. I thought it was very cool how they implemented it.
No, I agree. Great point that you brought up. Treat Me Right. I'm looking at
Benatar.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the soundtrack right now. Not a lot of bangers on the soundtrack, not at all.
Yeah, but it sold millions of records, and it was all because of Love Lifts Us Up.
Yeah.
Treat
Me Right.
Also, to that point, you brought up Against All Odds from the same director.
I know.
That movie's soundtrack was moved because of Phil Collins' Against All Odds.
I know. It was a little disappointing that it was like Treat Me Right. The rest of it was like. Up where we belong. It like you did 3 different versions of it. Love that.
I like to think that this movie did influence Top Gun a few years later, because
you actually said that while we were watching.
The music notes that were used right after the sex scene, because obviously they used Love Lifts Us Up during the sex scene, a version of it, and then right afterwards when they're having the conversation, the music there sounded very much like the Top Gun music, not the Top Gun theme, but Top Gun music.
You said it when they were
from Harold Faltermeyer's score. I think that Top Gun did look at this movie because ostensibly it's the same premise of people going to the Navy to become pilots. Specifically, now Top Gun, they were already in the Navy.
Yeah.
They just went to the upper echelon of it. But they were like, what was Officer and Gentleman missing? Well, they were missing fucking planes. Because there's no goddamn planes in this movie. Okay, so, and they knew they were going to get planes in Top Gun. But they're like, we need fucking more bangers on this soundtrack. Because we got 2. And Officer and a Gentleman. So they're like, Kenny Loggins, hook this shit up. Just keep the recorder going.
I get it. And then also, what did our friend say when this is pretty much Top Gun?
He said something effect. He goes, you've got a Navy school, you've got people on motorcycles, but you don't have that love and feeling.
Yeah, exactly. which really is Top Gun.
Yeah, it's Top Gun where nobody leaves the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
There's even CD bar scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, if this movie had a better soundtrack, meaning songs, you and I and our friends might have been visiting the TJs a couple years ago on the West Coast and not Kansas City barbecue.
So this is kind of Top Gun, pre-Top Gun, but the only difference is there's actually really no difference.
And they're like, and Top Gun's like, let's get characters that are actually likable.
Yeah.
And that people can get behind.
Exactly. Oh, it's so good. But I mean, I'm still stuck with. It's a love story for me. I mean, I still got emotional at the end,
and I get it.
But you're not a chick. You're not going to get emotional at the end. Well, okay.
I am capable of emotion. I fucking cried during Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
As did I.
I can get emotional easily.
Okay.
Bitch ruined this movie for me.
Oh.
Ruin the moment. Yes.
Okay. She's not. Don't make it about her.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Like, I like to sometimes put myself in the characters, and it's like if I was carrying you off from your shitty printing job, and here I am. Look, I struggled for 15 weeks, 14 weeks, however long.
Okay.
This thing was. I went through all the shit. I bared my emotional self to both my commanding officer.
Okay.
And you who I just met, during that time period.
For weeks at least.
For weeks. And I went through the work.
Okay.
I succeeded as a person.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm going to come for my future wife and carry her off. And the bitch that caused my buddy to die, to kill himself, said, "You did it, Christy! You did it! Good job!" I would have dropped you.
Yeah, I know.
To go beat the shit out of your coworker.
I get.
In front of your mother.
Oh, okay. Also, by the way.
Because, again, Deborah Winger, who was good, who is a genuine, kind-hearted person,
didn't do a fucking thing in this movie.
I know.
What she did was not be a terrible person, which is a great job. More people should aspire to not be a terrible person.
Could I just jump in here and say, I'm too heavy for you to carry.
I have no core strength.
And you have a terrible back. It's a terrible back. So I'm too heavy to carry. I'm just trying to help you here. I get what you're saying. You're not going to carry me. Your back is terrible. I'm too heavy to carry.
I'm just saying.
But I get where you're going.
I couldn't carry Deborah Winger out of there either.
Yeah, okay.
If that was the case.
Okay. All right.
My back sucks, ladies and gentlemen. I've had 2 surgeries.
Yeah, viewers.
Might have another one after the hernia that I'm going to have over Lynette. Another victim falls to Lynette.
I know.
40 years later.
Okay. What we know, listeners.
Also, Lynette, wherever you are, you did a bang-up job as an actress.
Yeah,
you really did.
Okay.
Your character's fucking terrible, but you owned it.
Anyway, I get what you're saying. I absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed this movie.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I hope I'm not in the doghouse for not loving this movie as much as my wife did.
I'm actually, if you heard the beginning and I got a little angry, Sean's not a big fan. So we have to discuss this personally when this ends. Seriously, it was fun. And I hope you guys had a good time. So,
if you didn't, there's always next week.
There's always next week. Oh, so we have to always discuss the next
movie.
Yes, which is?
The next movie is actually a movie that Christy has never seen, obviously, that I have seen several times now. That I actually previously did a podcast about, which was my first time discovering it. Different show, which is 1984's Voyage of the Rock Aliens, starring Pia Zadora. It is not nominated for any Oscars in the 1985 Academy Awards, but it's heaps of fun. Heaps of fun. There will be laughs. I can't wait for Christy to shit all over this movie. But I think she's going to enjoy shitting all over this movie. Unlike me shitting all over Officer and a Gentleman, which I liked. So tune in next week for fun. Say goodnight, Christy.
I'm already shaking my head on the next one. Not sure how I'm going to feel about this one. But I will be there. So cheers. We'll see you next week.
Have a good week, guys.